Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm the inspirational Andy Murray from WhatCulture. And remember, you cannot make a gourmet soup with dead bees and piss.
Coming up, a potential Money in the Bank title match spoiler.
Mark Henry shooting hard on Lio Rush.
And even more Lio Rush news. More news than you can shake a piece of gold at. This is the news.
We're going to start with a nice little story about Phil.
Who?
Phil Brooks. Not Chambers, Phil Brooks. CM Punk, Chick Magnet Phil, whatever his real name is. Apparently, so according to a new report from Brad Shepard, a former WWE writer who now hosts a show called the Oh You Didn't Know Wrestling Show, wonder where you got that name from, WWE are apparently really interested in re-signing CM Punk, which is really quite an odd little turn of events. So he didn't do a deep dive or anything this, it was just kind of like a little throwaway comment. On this podcast, he said that people within WWE are interested in bringing him back and that this was very interesting to him. Now, of course it's very interesting to him. It's CM bloody Punk. The guy recently returned to the wrestling business under a mask to deliver a go-to sleep at an indie show in Wisconsin recently. He's apparently done this a couple more times over the past few years just without anyone knowing because he's like masked up like a big spooky ninja. Either way, this story is kind of tough to break down because it's so thin. It's also CM Punk, all the reasons for him not wanting to return have been covered a million times before. Mr. Wilborn, what do you think of this?
I am really, really divided on this. The sensible side of me says, look at what happened when he was last in WWE. Look at the unceremonious way that he left WWE. The fact that they fired him on his wedding day, don't forget. The fact he's just come out and said, no, this is never going to happen. And yeah, he probably will never go back to the WWE. He's made enough money for himself. He's enjoying his time working in whatever way he can in the mixed martial arts world. But the other half of me desperately wants this to be true.
Yeah, I mean, on the positive side of this, you can see why WWE would want a star of this magnitude to rejoin their roster, particularly given the competition situation that's currently brewing with AEW. And perhaps part of it is that they just don't want him to end up there someday as well. By the same token, he has loads of enemies in the company. He hated working for them. He hates wrestling. He hasn't done bugger all since like 5 years ago since he quit. He seems to be very happy in mixed martial arts, even though he hasn't had the best record.
No, he's just commentating on stuff now, isn't he? And also, he's not one of those people you go, well, once Vince is out of the way, don't worry, Trips will be running the show and he'll much rather work under him.
Nope. Him and Paul hate each other as well. Phil and Paul are not friends.
But
sweet, sweet Saudi oil money, baby. $50 million, baby. The work of match against Hulk Hogan for 5 minutes. Look, I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell of CM Punk showing up in WWE ever again. But if a source with inside connections is reporting it, then maybe there's something to it. Either way, I can see Mr. Punk saying, no thank you.
I'm calling it. CM Punk, 3-time Money in the Bank winner, May 19th.
Daniel Bryan versus The Miz at WrestleMania.
Yeah, he's not got a great track record.
Dean Ambrose doesn't work.
Dean Ambrose is still definitely work. Anyway, moving on. The same source that you just mentioned there is claiming that Becky Lynch could lose one of her women's titles at Money in the Bank. According to a source in WWE, they believe the company is wearing the Becky Lynch thing out. They believe that 2 matches at Money in the Bank will be the first cracks in the Becky Lynch armour, so to speak, and they believe the crowd would pop if Lacey Evans won. Like, on the one hand,
what? Are they mental?
You can sit there and say, maybe you could argue you could put the belt back on Shot. You're putting the wrong belt on someone, aren't you? I thought Becky was meant to now be like the flagship Raw person. Yeah. I know she drifts between both brands, but
they're mental.
I get it. You've been teasing this Lacey Evans thing for a long time, but doesn't mean you have to put a title on her straight away. And I think, I mean, arguably, yes, if you put her in that match, if she has a big, long, drag-out brawl against Charlotte, just makes it through that, and then it's like, right, now you've got to face a fresh...
Come in and pick the bones.
Lacey Evans comes in, woman's right, etc. But at the same time, I don't feel like they're wearing the Becky Lynch thing out just yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. Like, the crowd reactions are super hot. In this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, or perhaps it was the radio, Dave Meltzer reported that the secondary market for WrestleMania tickets this year was the busiest and the most lucrative it has ever been, suggesting that people were really fired up for that women's match and Becky Lynch's victory in particular. Really strikes me as odd, this. Now, if you're going to use a metric to analyse this, you would look at the TV ratings. Coming out of WrestleMania, it was super positive. Everyone felt really good. but audiences haven't come back to watch Becky Lynch, Kofi Kingston, and Seth Rollins as champions. In fact, they've been turned away in record numbers. But I still think that is a bit too much of a stretch. I think that any ratings malaise are down to the product as a whole, not one or two or three individuals. And the idea that Lacey Evans is going to get a pop for beating the most popular wrestler in the company
the most
kind of
WWE
blows
thing ever.
my mind. Yeah, that's they are mental. That's all I can really say.
I think, and also isn't there like money in being like she's overcome two of her biggest challenges, and then at the next pay-per-view she faces two more challenges.
Yeah, she faces Asuka and bloody Sasha Banks. Yeah,
and also I get it, you want to take one of these belts off her. You've got that Money in the Bank briefcase, which would be the perfect way to be like, imagine that, she goes through another pay-per-view, she goes through both of those matches, and then after that she has to have a third match against the Money in the Bank holder.
Yeah.
Just
wear her down,
I think it's a lot better, and as much as I know that they want to push Lacey Evans, I don't think this is the right way to get her over.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I can't make much sense of it, and you know what else I can't make much sense of?
Go on.
The Lio Rush situation. So this has intensified quite a bit. We have a couple of individual topics we're going to discuss on this right now. The first one revolves around Mark Henry. He has been shooting hard on the 24-year-old piece of gold. So he recently gave an interview with Sirius XM's Busted Open Radio, in which he was asked and spoke on the Lio Rush situation in great detail. So he compared it to his situation when he started with WWE back in 1996, saying that he used to carry bags and water and stuff for Yokozuna and a bunch of other guys because he was the junior locker room member, and that's just how things were done. Now, Rush came out in an interview with Fightful Select, claiming that the reason he didn't want to do chores like that is because he didn't want the image of a young African-American male carrying stuff around, basically for old white dudes. Henry has said on this, it's not a race issue, it's an ego issue. Who are you? Nobody's exempt from being respectful to the business and paying homage. Steve Austin did it, The Rock did it, you're better than The Rock, get out of here. He then goes on, he said, the reason I am angry is because I pulled him aside and told him, hey man, I'm hearing stuff in the locker room, what's up? Rush replied saying, oh no, there's nothing wrong. Henry then goes on to say that's a lie to my face. I'd heard these things, I had them confirmed, and he just straight up no-sold them. And then he goes on and on. He talks about Leo's claim that he couldn't afford to pay his road expenses on his current salary and said, well, sort your spending habits out, dude, blah, blah, blah. And then said, back in the day, if he was serving as Bobby Lashley's manager, he would have just been told straight up, Bobby gets a water, he gets a towel, he gets all this stuff, you bring it to him after he's had his match, you drive him around, blah, blah, blah. You're the junior locker room member, you pay your dues, and you get on. So there's quite a lot to break down in this whole situation, really, and we will have an op-ed feature coming on this very channel on the whole thing very soon. Either way, it's quite interesting to hear Mark Henry, who's typically quite a reserved guy when it comes to stuff like this, so just spewing both barrels. Yeah,
it's weird. He's obviously very old school, Mark Henry, and I can respect that. I can't be the only one who's kind of frustrated with all this Lio Rush stuff coming out. I think, I get it. Look, if someone was in the WhatCulture office, for example, and was just being a nightmare off camera and then would try and come on and be all nicey-nicey, no, we'd have to deal with that. But at the same time, I want my wrestlers to be rewarded or punished based on their wrestling or promo ability, not based on all the backstage nonsense. It's just really getting out of hand, this.
Yeah, it is. It's
more and more stuff just keeps coming out.
Exactly. Every single day it feels like there's a big bomb coming from one or the other side of the argument. It's difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff. It's very difficult to know what's true and what's nonsense. At this stage, I would just like it all to blow over, really.
Story number 4, Lio Rush. Yes, I'm not making this up. There's more on Lio Rush from PW Insider this time, who are reporting that apparently WWE offered him a 5-year deal for $300,000 per year, and he turned it down before asking for double that. And they also say he's been pulled from the European tour too. Yeah,
and apparently kicked out of the locker room, and I quote, months ago. This is all kind of, well, it's in line with what we expect, although the money thing is quite interesting. I mean, Brandon Howard Thurston, who is of WrestleNomics, recently did a wonderful bit of research. Basically figured out that the modern WWE main roster salary, the average is somewhere around about $660,000 per year. Lio Rush has been offered roughly half that. Lio Rush thinks that he should earn double what he was offered, which is still just under the average if Mr. Thurston's calculations are correct, and we have no reason to believe they're not. He is the best WWE business analyst around. It's not my place to say, like, that's too much, he should take it, or that's not enough and all this stuff, because I'm not in that business, I blah, 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 I don't live that life. It's not my position to say. What I will say is that WWE wrestlers earn a shockingly low wage as a percentage of turnover compared to other sports. It pales in comparison, and that I am in favour of any wrestler getting a big payday.
And the thing to take away here is not necessarily the numbers related to Lio Rush, but when you see these figures quoted and you sit there and go, 300 grand a year, that'd be pretty good. And yeah, that is a decent wage. You're in the biggest wrestling company in the world. Yeah. But you also have to take into account all the stuff because they're independent contractors and all that sort of thing. It just really winds me up. Well, let us know what you think about the Lio Rush situation. This is the best way to gauge it, I suppose. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Lio Rush situation, what do you think should be done about it, and whether or not you'd like to see him back on your TV. Because if I personally put all the backstage stuff aside, put all the contract stuff aside, nonsense. He is a brilliant manager and a great promo, really an annoying little git.
Yeah. He is.
He's the perfect heel manager.
And I thought they could have done so much good stuff with him and Bobby Lashley as well. That's a shame.
Anyway, let's move on to your Twitter questions. Don't forget you can tweet them at us at WhatCultureWWE. We start with a question from Matthew Cross today, who says, hey guys, do you think that with the success of the past year's NXT TakeOver events, the WWE will plan more of them throughout the year?
I think there's a chance that they might, although I don't necessarily think they should. I think the current spacing is perfect. TakeOver, because it only comes across like once every 2 or 3 months, it feels more special. It feels like the build is longer, it's more considerate, it's more careful. The storylines are a lot more satisfying as a result of that. There is such thing as too much of a good thing, and I think we might start getting burned out on these big bombastic shows if we had too many of them, because like TakeOver is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's never anything less than like 9 out of 10. But they're pretty exhausting. And if you had more, I just think it would dilute that special feeling.
Yet again, I'm torn. After each takeover, I'm like, oh my God, when's the next takeover?
Next weekend!
But then again, I also remember the time when we had WWE pay-per-views every 2 weeks because of the brand split. And I was like, this is great, we get a pay-per-view every 2 weeks. And then about 2 months in, I was like, oh good, another pay-per-view.
I am literally dead.
Yeah. I think they've got it around about the right time scale now. And if you just want to watch more takeovers, watch them on the network.
Yeah, go start again. Watch Arrival, man. Watch Arrival.
Yeah, exactly. Right, next question. It's not really a question, more of a statement, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it from Zachary Linder, who says, with the constant recaps and rehashing, it feels like the WWE are constantly trying to cater to new viewers, but main roster never feels like it rewards repeat watching. I get that feeling too.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree more with that. That's one of the things about WWE's main roster, is that everything is so in the moment. It's these little nuggets of joy that just kind of exist there and then go no further. Things are never really followed up on in a satisfying manner. Things aren't really built towards like they used to be. There are exceptions. Becky Lynch's WrestleMania win is a good example of that. But yeah, it's just these shows exist in little time capsules. There's no context around them. There are no threads coming in and out of them. And yeah, the recaps and stuff are super annoying. Like how many I'd like to see someone do a study of this to see how many minutes on Raw or SmackDown are just covered with replays and nonsense that we've already watched. I don't need to see that. I'm not a goldfish. Like I've got an attention span that can last a little bit longer than 5 seconds, Vince McMahon, and I would like that acknowledged. But yeah, couldn't agree more. It's not one that rewards long-term investment. It is very much a popcorn type style of entertainment, and I think that's how it's best consumed.
Final question today comes from Wayne Martin, who says, with previous Saudi shows having a special gimmick, Greatest Royal Rumble, Best in the World, etc., what do you think, this is a bit of a Friday question, this, what do you think they'll do for the one this June?
Oh my, they're going to do something really mental, aren't they? Like the last one, for God's sake, had the New Day entering on a magic carpet.
Yeah.
I dread to think what they could do. Perhaps they've already done a tournament. I was going to suggest the greatest King in the Ring. How about this? The greatest Great Balls of Fire.
I'm picturing Hell in a Cell on top of Hell in a Cell.
With a dragon.
Honestly, take your pick, suggest your stuff in the comments, and they'll probably have a look and just pick one, whatever the maddest one is. Right, let's move on to today's and finally. Andy Murray, do you remember at the start of this week when the Revival were mocked for shaving their backs?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. We're not going into dodgy territory. We're not going to get taken down. It's good news. It's the most WWE thing that ever could have happened. So they did that, right, to punish the Revival, yes? Manscaped have offered the Revival an endorsement deal off the back of it. So WWE's attempt at punishing the Revival, Manscaped tweets, hey at Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, we saw you guys manscaping, want to give you guys the right tools for the job. Ginger Pimpernel on Twitter, thank you for this, says WWE tries to make a mockery of two guys who want to leave and accidentally lands an endorsement deal instead.
That is absolutely tremendous. That came back to backfire, didn't it?
Thank you, universe. Sometimes you do stuff like break my toe for mocking Liv Morgan's injury, and then sometimes stuff like this comes out, and I think, you know what? The balance is just right in the world.
Thanos, innit?
Let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and send us your Twitter questions at WhatCultureWWE. Whilst you're there on Twitter, you can follow both of us. You can follow him at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for ha ha ha.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. As said, follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. My thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.